WUSF 89.7 Tampa. Bachtower Gardens host the Rootstock Plant Sale October 4th. Enjoy hayrides through Pine Ridge Reserve, live music by Highway 41, and shop from over 25 vendors from across Florida. More at bachtower.org. Support comes from EnduraFlood, made to protect Florida homes from drywall damage caused by flooding from hurricanes. Components are designed to be waterproof, and the EnduraFlood wall system can be opened and removed to dry out. Details are at enduraflood.com. The Spectrum Bay News 9 forecast for today from meteorologist Julie Marquez. Slight chance of showers and thunderstorms.
Breaking news this morning involving the Rays and the University of South Florida. I'm Matthew Petty, and we'll talk about all of that today on Florida Matters, live and local. Then, this time last year, many of us were reeling from the impact of Hurricane Helene, and just a few days later, Milton would slam into Tampa Bay. 1 year on, how are you coping? Are you better prepared for the next time a hurricane hits? Call and let us know, 813-755-6562, or email FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. Also, we're teetering on the brink of a government shutdown if lawmakers don't pass a budget. Democrats and Republicans can't agree on healthcare funding, so how would a shutdown affect you? And what does the wrangling over healthcare mean for your healthcare? All this on Florida Matters, live and local. That's coming up after the news.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Amy Held. Federal agencies are set to run out of money at midnight tonight. A shutdown could lead to delays with services for Americans ranging from air traffic control to receiving benefits. Federal workers could go without pay, and some President Trump has threatened to fire. NPR's Deirdre Walsh reports Republicans and Democrats say they remain far apart on any agreement.
House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries says a funding deal has to address expiring health care subsidies.
And the reality is that in a matter of days, notices are going to go out to tens of millions of Americans, making clear that their health care is about to become dramatically more expensive.
Republicans accuse Democrats of hostage-taking and say the issue should be negotiated on a separate track. The Senate is expected to vote later today on two proposals: a House-passed bill that extends current funding levels until November 21st, and a Democratic alternative that attaches health care changes. Both failed before and are expected to fail again as the deadline to avoid a shutdown approaches. Deirdre Walsh, NPR News.
A highly anticipated and unusual gathering of top military leaders has concluded in Virginia. Trump gave a rambling and political speech that referenced using the military against the enemy within. He talked about Democratic-run cities and said some could be used as training grounds for the military. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth spoke first, saying the Trump administration renamed Department of War had become woke.
Standards must be uniform, gender neutral, and high. If not,
to Portland, Oregon, Public Broadcasting's Troy Brennelson reports.
The Oregon National Guard has begun calling up guards and has more than 160 members who volunteered so far. While their arrival could in theory come Thursday, vetting them takes at least 96 hours. Lieutenant Colonel Stephen Bomar with the Oregon Military Department says it's just as likely the troops won't be ready this week.
We had all ready to go. The earliest would be shortly after that 96-hour mark, but I do not see that happening in this case.
Since Trump's order, there's been little communication between the Guard and Portland officials, including its mayor and police chief. The order itself says the troops' mission will be to protect federal property and staff. National Guard deployments are also expected in cities such as Chicago and Memphis. In Portland, I'm Troy Brennelson.
Louisiana's governor has asked the Trump administration to deploy National Guard troops to his state. It's NPR.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive Insurance, working to help protect small businesses and the owners that run them, offering customizable coverages to salons, accounting firms, tradespeople, and more. Learn more at progressivecommercial.com.
You're listening to WUSF 89.7. I'm Craig Kopp. The University of South Florida has picked a single finalist for its new president, and it's a familiar name, Moaz Limayam. He's the president of the University of North Florida. He spent 10 years as dean of the Muma College of Business at USF before leaving in 2022. Dr. Anila Jain is on the campus board of USF Sarasota Manatee. She says Limayam knows the Tampa Bay area and is well liked here.
We're all very excited to have Moaz back at the university. He was a leader that was well respected, that was liked by students, faculty, peers, leadership team.
Limayam was chosen by a presidential search committee to succeed USF President Rhea Law, who is retiring soon. A series of community forums will be announced in the coming days. Then the USF Board of Trustees can make its formal selection. The Florida Board of Governors has final say over his approval. You can have your say about this news and hear more about it on Florida Matters Live and Local coming up next. The sale of the Tampa Bay Rays appears to be official. The Tampa Bay Business Journal is reporting the $1.7 billion deal closed today. The new owners are an investment group led by Jacksonville homebuilder Patrick Zalupski. This deal means there's new life in the team's quest to remain in the Tampa Bay area. Several sites in Tampa have been named as a possible location for a new stadium. The team is contractually obligated to play through the 2028 season at Tropicana Field, which is being rebuilt after last year's devastating hurricanes. Stuart Sternberg, who has owned the Rays since 2004, will still hold a 10% stake in the team. Imelda is now a hurricane and continues to hover near the Bahamas this morning. Hurricane Umberto will pull that storm out into the Atlantic, and it will stay away from the coast of the United States. Weather for these parts today, just a 10% chance of rain, high of 90. I'm Craig Kopp, WUSF 89.7 News.
Want to catch up on Tampa Bay area news and culture? I'm Sky LeBron, and I got you every weekday morning with the Bay Blend podcast from WUSF. It's quick, fun, and you'll discover something new every day. It's the Bay Blend, wherever you get your podcasts or at WUSF.org.
Limelight Theater in St. Augustine is the ancient city's premier regional theater, offering exceptional entertainment year-round, with support from the St. Johns County Tourist Development Council. Details at limelight-theater.org.
This is Florida Matters Live and Local. I'm Matthew Petty, broadcasting from the doctors Lorraine Rubis and Neil Frankel studio in Tampa. We've got a lot of breaking news today on Florida Matters Live and Local. The Tampa Bay Rays sale appears to be complete. Media reports say the Zalupski Group is taking over. We'll have more on that breaking news story on WUSF News throughout the day. Also, the University of South Florida may have its next president, and it's a homecoming. University of North Florida President Moaz Limayam was announced as the sole candidate for the job this morning. He's a familiar name to USF and the Board of Trustees who need to approve the appointment before heading to UNF in 2022. Limayam spent 10 years as the Dean of USF's Muma College of Business. He's replacing Rhea Law, who announced her retirement from USF earlier this year. Well, to fill us in on the announcement, former USF President Betty Castor joins us. Ms. Castor, President Castor, I should say, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. It's great to be here on such an important day.
Indeed. So tell us what you know about Moaz.
Well, Moaz is someone who is well known to the Tampa Bay community because of his tenure as the Dean of the College of Business. He's dearly loved by all of us who knew him. He's an accomplished academician. He now has his presidential experience. We know him and he knows us. Mm-hmm. He built the College of Business into a premier college, and most of us, all of us, respect him greatly for his leadership of the college. He brought the first really large $25 million gift from Pam and Les Muma to the college, and from there on the college soared. So many of us were very sad to see him leave, although he made a good choice and now brings his presidential experience back to him. I think back to us. The search committee did a fantastic job, and I like their recommendation. As you point out, the process is not over.
Yeah.
Because he will visit the campus and for a series of interviews, and then will be presented formally to the Board of Trustees.
Let me just ask about that kind of selection process too. I mean, picking a university president in Florida has become very political in the last few years. Are you surprised by this decision?
I'm very pleased by this decision. From time to time, I have seen members of the search committee who have all kind of promised that this would be a good search and one where they would make the decision. They were well aware of the fact that the faculty and students and the university community really wanted an academician. And in MOAS, we have an academician. We have someone who has academic credentials. He has his MBA and a doctorate degree from the University of Minnesota. So he has the credentials, and plus that, he has the personality to lead this community. And the business community know him very, very well. And I think that's an important component of this search.
Right, because a lot of it is about being visible and getting out there and being the public face of the university. Well, I'm sure we'll have much more to talk about as the process moves on, but thank you so much for sharing your insights. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Former President of USF, Betty Castor.
Thank you.
Now, many of you are still dealing with the aftermath of last year's hurricanes. When Hurricane Milton slammed into Tampa Bay last year, many of you were still reeling from Hurricane Helene. That was just a few weeks before that. The storms devastated the region. An estimated 59,000 homes were damaged in Hillsborough and Pinellas County alone. Massive flooding and wind damage ripped apart homes, lives, and businesses. What about you? Are you still rebuilding, picking up parts of your life that were lost a year ago? If you are, how are you finding ways not only to move on and build resilience, but also build hope too? We want your calls. You can give us a ring at 813-755-6562. That's 813-755-6562. I want to welcome our guests as well. Charles Gallagher joins us from Gallagher & Associates in St. Petersburg. His law firm helps homeowners and consumers with home insurance and fraud disputes. Also joined by Jody Fisk, the Manatee County Public Safety Director, and Kathy Perkins, the Pinellas County Emergency Management Director. Thank you all so very much for being with Florida Matters live and local. Well, WUSF did check in recently with several people that they met following last year's storms. One was Marlise Talbot Jones. Jones is a 55-year-old resident of Progress Village, a historic a 55-year, I should say, resident of Progress Village, a historically black neighborhood just east of Tampa. She's still facing a lot of challenges.
I have several homes in Progress Village I inherited. I have tarps on several houses, but then the code enforcement is cracking down on people that have tarps on their houses. And I'm one of those people. They're telling me that I'm in violation because I have a tarp on my house, but my insurance company hasn't paid out, and I cannot afford to put a roof on 8 houses.
All right. So, Charles, I want to bring you into this conversation for a start. People were calling you right after each hurricane. What did they want to know?
So a whole lot of inquiries from folks about what to do, where to go in terms of insurance issues, in terms of FEMA issues, in terms of just the practical realities, what to do, where to go. And so, saw a whole lot of that relative to concerns with, damage to their house, flooding and the like. So fielded a ton of calls and heard from a lot of folks who were in those kind of fixes and try to assist them, yes.
Yeah. Now, Tampa Bay has seen some pretty bad storms over the years. We've had hurricanes, tropical storms, floods, tornadoes. It's been a while, though, since the region was hit with like a 1-2 punch like we saw in 2024. Because, I think back to 2004, there were 4 hurricanes that carved up the state, but it's been a while. So how did last year's double tap, or triple if you count Debbie as well, how did that affect people here and your kind of experience of things?
Relative to claims, there were a whole lot of insurance claims. You had a scenario where we hadn't had a flood in quite a while. So you had a lot of homeowners experiencing concerns that flood claims that existed were not covered under their homeowners policy. So this reality check that, wait a second, maybe we should have had a flood policy as well. Then after that, we have a windstorm claim where we don't have the flood coverage. We have now under your homeowners policy the possibility of coverage for windstorm. So people were their heads were spinning. They didn't know where to go. You had a ton of trees down, a ton of flooding, a ton of damage, and the problems with trying to get some quick response in terms of whether it be insurance carriers or other entities. So the people were their heads were spinning is the short version.
Yeah. Jody Fisk with Manatee County Public Safety. What was the aftermath of Hurricanes Helene and Milton like for Manatee County?
So Manatee County was interesting. This was the first time the county's seen this kind of impact in over a century. So I think a lot of people were surprised by the storm surge when it came in and the amount of damage and sand that it brought with it, as well as the debris. And then for those who didn't take any impacts from Helene, a week and change later, you had Hurricane Milton with the wind. And so it has prompted a lot of conversation, I think, for our residents about insurance, about knowing your level, and really about the emergency alerts and making sure they're getting the most current information from trusted sources.
What about the recovery? And how does that look, almost a year on from Hurricane Milton now?
Recovery is always a very, very long process. It's not as simple as just filling out an application and then getting money and start your repairs. So, we've taken a lot of lessons learned both at the county level for the recovery process and how to support residents in that long-term recovery, as well as really bolstered up our partnerships with a lot of our nonprofits and community organized groups within the county so that they are able to provide resources, especially to our lower income residents who are in a situation where they don't have insurance, so they are relying on the state or the federal government, and that's just not a very fast process for most.
Yeah, bureaucracy can be a while to get through. You're listening to Florida Matters Live and Local. We're talking with Jody Fisk with Manatee County Public Safety. Also with us is Charles Gallagher with Gallagher & Associates and Kathy Perkins, the Pinellas County Emergency Management Director, talking about the long recovery process after hurricanes Helene and Milton and how you kind of get your life back on track when you have been impacted by serious storms. You can weigh in with your comments and questions. Is last year's disaster in your rearview mirror? What did you learn from that, or are you still picking up the pieces? The number is 813-755-6562. You can email FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. Kathy, building permit delays were a big challenge for a lot of people fixing their homes after the storms. Has that changed at all?
So I think we're seeing more permits are being issued now. The substantial damage determinations were a huge challenge. Just like Jody and Charles talked about, we have not seen that kind of flooding here in Pinellas County. It was a cumbersome process to be able to gather all of the data points required to calculate that and determine, depending upon the type of home that people lived in, whether or not they met that criteria. In Pinellas County, we have 26 different jurisdictions, so it gets confusing for a lot of people, right? Not everybody knows where their permits are coming from, whose jurisdiction they fall under, getting the letters out to folks. So there was a lot of confusion. We are seeing movement on that now, and we are seeing people now that are tearing down their homes and starting to reconstruct or starting to see elevations happening. But we do, unfortunately, still see homes and businesses that are still boarded up.
Yeah, so it's a long process if you're only just now starting to kind of rebuild a year after the storm. And, we're now into the next storm season, right? It hasn't been impacting us here yet, but there's still a ways to go. You're listening to Florida Matters Live and Local. We're talking about the long recovery process after Hurricanes Helene and Milton, and Debbie as well. We're with Jody Fisk with Manatee County Public Safety, Kathy Perkins with Pinellas County Emergency Management, and Charles Gallagher, attorney with Charles Gallagher and Associates in St. Petersburg. We're talking about how you rebuild after a hurricane and some of the practical things you need to know after a storm passes. We'll take your calls. You can call us at 813-755-6562. That's 813-755-6562. You can also email us with your thoughts. We're at FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. More to come in just a moment.
I'm Scott Tong. Homemade gnocchi, stuffed peppers, how about grilled mahi-mahi? All are perfect dishes to help us ease into the fall. Here and Now resident chef Kathy Gunst teaches us how to make them well. Next time on Here and Now.
Here and Now starts at 1 on WUSF.
When it comes to cancer, BayCare delivers life-saving expertise with heartfelt care, close to home. Experience exceptional cancer care from the region's largest academic health system. Learn more at baycare.org/cancer.
One listener told us WUSF has been there for me through every season of my life. Listener support is what makes this possible. Be a part of it as a sustaining member at WUSF.org, because resilience doesn't just happen, it's sustained.
Welcome back to Florida Matters Live and Local. I'm Matthew Petty. We're talking about the long aftermath of the 2024 hurricane season in Tampa Bay. Were you affected at the time, and if so, are you still recovering? Attorney Charles Gallagher is with us. He's an attorney with Gallagher & Associates in St. Petersburg. Also joined by Jody Fisk with Manatee County Public Safety and Kathy Perkins with Pinellas County Emergency Management. You can call or email if you have questions or a story to share about how you overcame the challenges and whether you're hopeful if another disaster strikes. The number is 813-755-6562. That's 813-755-6562. You can send an email, FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. Charles, just kind of taking a personal view on this, what was the aftermath of Hurricanes Helene and Milton like for you? I mean, did it feel like a different kind of recovery process from other efforts that you've been part of?
Very much so. I think we had some profound damage in our area. We were fortunate, had a couple of trees on our roof, had some flooding in our garage, and some nominal damage to fencing and such. But we were quite fortunate, but not feet away. We had 4, 5, 6 massive trees uprooted on people's houses, destroying their cars. And we were in an area that was high. We weren't in a low area. So very fortunate, but just stunned seeing the reaction of things. And we were able to help folks that were out on the beaches and such. And that truly is breathtaking, and seeing how bad the damage was, the sand accumulation, properties really, damaged significantly. So we were very fortunate, but our area, we felt for those that were worse off than us, and tried to help those as we could, both personally and professionally.
Are you getting the same kind of request for assistance now that you would have been getting months and months ago?
Sure, and it's not really over yet. And we tell everybody is, begin that challenge one day at a time. You look at damage to your property, look at damage, and it's daunting. It sets you back a little bit. But small incremental things you can do. Create your inventory, reach out to your insurance carrier, reach out to FEMA if possible, find other sources for some kind of recovery. If you have to live outside the property, one thing at a time is the best solution. And now is the time to think about planning for that next storm. Evaluate your insurance, make sure you've got comprehensive inventory of contents for your home. Those type of things you can do right now, as well as the typical hurricane prepping for things you need in your property.
Mm-hmm. Kathy and Jody, I want to ask you both the same question. Let me start with you, Jody. What is the biggest question, or the number one question you get from people after a hurricane?
After a hurricane, it's typically, when are we going to get assistance? When is someone going to come? It starts with the debris. When are you going to pick the debris out of my yard? And then it moves on to, when is FEMA going to get here for us to do our application? Those questions really are pretty standard that you get from the residents, because it's the immediate needs. And I think that, as they go through the long-term recovery process, we are seeing a lot more, more educated questions about the process. Like, I made it to this part. Should I also apply for SBA, or should I wait for FEMA to give me my dollars? And so it's been a huge learning curve. If you're not immersed in this world, it's a big learning curve. But the residents, it's the immediate need first, and then that longer term recovery, it just depends on where they are in the process.
Kathy, what about you? What's the question that sticks out for you?
I think it's always what's next, right? And I think for everybody in our community, to Jody's point, it's a different perspective, right? Depending upon how you were impacted. I remember going out to the barrier islands and there's no power and there's fire alarms and there's 4 feet of sand everywhere and so many structures impacted. And then you drive back onto the mainland and it's business as usual, right? Until Milton came along, and then we had all this inland flooding, and then we had all these long extended power outages, and we had a lot of cable outages. So, each one is we have to continue to try to pivot and figure out how to get information and resources to the community. And it just really varies for everybody. I think Charles and a lot of our local attorney groups, like, they see a lot of people that are really struggling. They're falling through the cracks. Insurance is not something that people are used to having to navigate. Permits are not something that most people are used to having to navigate. So it's a huge learning curve in terms of all of the things that people are trying to deal with in the aftermath of an event like this.
If you've got some questions about the process that you're dealing with, let us know. 813-755-6562. That's 813-755-6562. You can also email us, FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. Okay, so FEMA came up, and obviously that is an agency that steps in after hurricanes. Jody, is FEMA still around for people who were hit a year ago, or has the window for that assistance changed at all?
So depending on the type of assistance you were applying for, there's different deadlines for that type of assistance. I do still get contact from residents who maybe have not heard from on the process of their application in a while, or have a question about a dollar amount that was given. I think we're pretty lucky. We usually get a FEMA liaison in the EOC with us on the ground prior to landfall, and that's very helpful for us because it helps us maintain points of contact. And so as the county is still going through the recovery process, FEMA is very responsive for us in terms of when we reach out to them and say, hey, this resident needs a point of contact, can you direct them to somebody else? We're pretty lucky. I have no complaints in that area. I think for residents, it can be very frustrating because you have an 800 number or an app and you get limited information. But that is a process that is being worked through at the federal level, obviously, for recovery assistance. But yeah, FEMA is on the ground with us. They are helpful. They have been responsive for us. So I don't have anything negative to say in that regard.
I wonder, Kathy, has anything changed under this new administration? Because there have been so many changes at the federal level. So are there things under President Donald Trump's administration that you need to step up and kind of work on because FEMA can't provide that assistance now?
The assistance is still the same for this hurricane season. I think we're all waiting to see what comes out of the committees that are meeting. Here in Pinellas County, we still have 226 households that are in some FEMA-supported direct housing programs. So, FEMA is still out there. They're still supporting people. And we're waiting to hear what changes may come about. So that way here at the state and the local level, we can determine how we can supplement that. And are there additional things that we need to be planning for?
Mm-hmm. Just in the last kind of 15 seconds or so we have here, I mean, some cynics might hear Florida homeowners are kind of more on their own now. Do you think that's true, or is there still help out there for them?
I think everybody should plan. Everybody should have a plan, right? Personal preparedness is first line of action for everybody. Know that your county and your state has resources. Make sure you're registering with your local county for alerts and notification. Get those insurance policies. That's a form of fiscal mitigation.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you know your zone, have a plan, and stay informed. Those are the key things. But the government state and local government is still out here to support.
Well, thank you so much. We're going to have to leave it there, but we've been speaking with Kathy Perkins with Pinellas County Emergency Management. She's the director of that agency. Jody Fisk, Manatee County Public Safety Director, and Charles Gallagher, an attorney with Gallagher & Associates in St. Petersburg. Thank you so much for your insights. Coming up next, how do you connect with people after a storm? You might be needing to rely on neighbours, friends and families to get through the immediate aftermath. Talk about who you turn to after Hurricanes Helene and Milton. Call 813-755-6562. More to come in just a moment.
Father and daughter duo Peter and Kathy Fang run House of Nanking, a Chinese restaurant that serves San Francisco for over 3 decades. One of their secrets, they're not afraid to adapt their recipes to make customers happy.
The way that we treat the dining room is the way that we would treat, like, if you invited guests to your home.
Now they're out with a family cookbook. Hear more on All Things Considered from NPR News.
At 4 o'clock today on WUSF.
Listener support powers WUSF. Funding also comes from Nova Southeastern University. NSU's cutting-edge research drives its efforts to help sustain the oceans, unlock the keys to healthier minds, and develop innovative healthcare treatments. More at nova.edu. Looking for a local getaway? You can spend your staycation exploring Florida's past at the Tampa Bay History Center. Open daily 10 to 5 on Water Street in downtown Tampa. Learn more at tampabayhistorycenter.org.
Welcome back to Florida Matters, live and local. I'm Matthew Petty. This week, the WSF Newsroom is bringing you stories of resilience from people who went through the storms. We want to hear from you as well. Call 813-755-6562. Tell us about your stories of resilience. You can also email FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. Well, Andrea Gonsmart Williams is the fifth-generation caretaker of the iconic Columbia restaurants. The Sarasota location at St. Armand's Circle was inundated with several feet of storm surge during Hurricane Helene. They had to pause repairs when Hurricane Milton struck 13 days later, but they managed to start serving again by late October.
It's such a relief to be 1 year out from the hurricanes, because it was truly a very stressful time for everyone, I think, in Florida, because the storms that hit us were unprecedented. Outside of our lifetime, my parents' lifetime, we've never experienced flooding like that. We took on about 4 to 5 feet of water. So we lost so much. Almost all of our kitchen equipment had to be replaced. We had to redo so much, we had to redo the banquettes, the booths, our chairs and our tables, many of them were still fine. Luckily, the water didn't rise high enough, so only minimal amount of our art got damaged. Being closed for 2 months, our 2 locations, it's the revenue not coming in, and then obviously the money that we had to reinvest back to our restaurants to be able to open them back up. And we also continued to pay our staff. So the financial effect it hurt. It was definitely 6 figures. We did not do an insurance claim, because at that point, then we realized what our insurance deductible was. It's funny when you're renewing your insurance, you never think it's going to happen. Just being able to open our doors again and have our staff come back and being able to pay them and have them come to work. As soon as the water subsided, we started bringing our employees back to help with the cleanup process. So that way they could be a part of it. They could see the changes that were being made. And, to be one of the first ones, if maybe not the first one on the Circle to open, was a huge accomplishment. We're the oldest restaurant in Sarasota. So I felt like it was only appropriate for us to be one of the first restaurants to open back up. We're a bunch of optimists around here. We really are. And we try not to focus on the negative. It's like when we talk about COVID now, I'm like, but you know what? Good things came out of COVID, because we did have good things come out of something that was so traumatic. And if anything, it makes, as a company and as a family, it makes us stronger. You can overcome, you can fix things. It's the not being open. You have to give your employees hope. You have to give your community hope. And so being closed for 2 months was so disappointing. And like I made the reference to COVID, it's that not knowing when we're going to be able to open up, but it was all hands on deck. So I would like to think we handle it in true Gonsmart form and with the grace that my grandparents would want it to be done.
Well, that was Andrea Gonsmart Williams, caretaker of the Columbia restaurant. This audio postcard was produced by WSF's Kerry Sheridan. Hurricane season in 2024 was rough for a lot of us. If your neighbourhood flooded or your home was damaged by hurricane-force winds from Milton, you might still be in recovery mode a year later. So, how do we hold each other after a storm? What are the ways we can find purpose, no matter how small, especially after disaster strikes? Ernest Hooper is with us. He's Chief Communications Officer with United Way Suncoast. They serve communities in Hillsborough, Pinellas, Manatee, Sarasota, and DeSoto counties. Ernest, thanks for being with us.
Glad to be here, Matthew.
Also joined by Father Curtis. He is pastor of St. Raphael Parish. Yes. Thank you so much for being with us, Father Curtis.
Thank you.
And you can call in with your questions and comments too. How did the 2024 hurricane season change your life, and who did you reach out to in the aftermath? Maybe it's kind of changed your social situation a little bit. Give us a call, 813-755-6562. That's 813-755-6562, or email FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. Ernest, a good support network can kind of help us get through the worst impacts of a disaster like a hurricane. So what does United Way Suncoast do to kind of support that network?
Yeah, well, we start by focusing on immediate relief, of course, and we connect with our partners who specialize in immediate relief. But our focus is often on mid and long-term recovery. We like to talk about when the TV cameras leave. That's really when our work starts. And
that's the hard work, right? I mean, not that the immediate stuff isn't important, but it's a long process.
It's as we always say, disaster recovery is a marathon, not a sprint. And so we're out raising funds and then disseminating those funds with our nonprofit partners. And we have issued $1.2 million in disaster recovery grants with our different nonprofit partners. And we have plans to issue another $1 million before the end of the year.
Is that because you realized that you needed more? You just ran through it all so quickly?
No, it's because we realize it's a marathon, and we're disseminating over the course of time so that we can position our nonprofit partners to address different issues. We don't know all the issues that are going to arise as we go through this long-term process. And so we want to be smart with the dollars and make sure we are addressing the most pressing issues.
Yeah. Well, Father Curtis, your church is, right on the kind of boundary line of a pretty badly affected flood zone, right, from last year in St. Petersburg. Just tell us a little more about what you saw and what your parishioners went through.
Yeah, so even myself, I flooded, but half our community flooded.
How bad was it for you?
For us, just in our quadrant of St. Petersburg, it was over 11,000 homes, and just half of our community. Even now, it's still reeling from the effects. But
yeah, and your home flooded as well.
Yeah, now not as much as others, but I can remember that sense of dread that morning you walk in after the storm. I used to use that idiom, devastated. It has a whole new meaning now. Just your mind just kind of empties and you just don't know how to take it all in. That you can really relate to so many people who lost so much more, but just that sense of dread, like, what do I do now?
I wonder too, I mean, it must be quite challenging. Like, in some ways, this is what you're ready for, right? I mean, you're there to be a rock for people, but you're also dealing with some pretty serious impacts yourself. How do you navigate that?
Yeah, I would say the number one thing was just as Ernest had said too, is just grappling with the disaster itself, just the immediate needs of people, and praying with them. I can remember we would go, I remember one lady's house, she had been in the water for 2 days. Her feet were still kind of wet, and we ended up having to take her to the hospital for dehydration, but she had just shut down mentally, just couldn't take in what was happening. There was another 84-year-old woman who had ridden out the storm herself, had been in that house for 60 years, never flooded before, and she got nervous when the water was getting close to the top of her bed. And we found her 2 days later. She had only cleaned out one room, which is pretty good for 84.
Wow.
But to send a team out there to be with her and then to connect her to her family to try to get her into other housing.
Yeah. How are those folks now?
Yeah, so it's hard to keep track with everyone. That even now, I would say 10% of my parishioners from my community have already moved out of the community, and about another 10%. So it has been hard to keep track of people. A lot of changeovers, even a year out.
So you're not sure if the lady who rode out the flood on her bed is still okay?
The last time I heard from her, we connected her to family. I knew she was out of her home. I knew she was safe, but I haven't connected with her since.
Yeah, it's a lot to kind of deal with and triage, I suppose. We want to hear from you as well. You can give us a call, 813-755-6562. Tell us about what the community support was like for you in the aftermath of Hurricanes Helene and Milton. Send us an email too. We're taking your emails at FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. Ernest, I want to come back to what United Way Suncoast does. You have a disaster resilience mission. What is that mission?
Yeah, well, we have a disaster resilience team, and what we're focused on right now is bringing different organizations together. You had on Jody Fisk in the first segment. We are leading the Community Organizations Active in Disaster in Manatee County. Heather Kester is our disaster resilience officer. And so we use the word resilience so much because it's not just about recovery. It's about putting things in place so the next time we're hit by a storm, we're better prepared. And we're better prepared to manage before the storm comes, and we're better prepared in the wake of the storm. We're better prepared to handle the flooding, to handle the wind damage. And it's all about connecting different organizations. We talk so much about convening and collaborating with different groups. We're also involved with the long-term recovery groups in Pinellas and Hillsborough.
Do you feel like you're better prepared now?
I think so. I think we're bringing people together to share best practices, to talk about different ideas. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done. Father Curtis was saying that he has a number of parishioners who need to elevate their homes, and the challenge is finding funding for that. The challenge is finding ways, getting the permitting to do that.
Yeah.
You know, those are big asks, but we got to keep working at it.
Yeah, so let me come back to that. So you've got people with very specific needs in St. Petersburg, elevation homes, for example. I mean, some of them, as you say, would have just left because it's not practical for them to stick around. But what kind of help can you provide if they are deciding to stay put and do something to make their places more resilient?
Yeah, I would say one of the effects of the storm that I think goes untold is probably the toll on marriages, the toll on even with that financial stress or these decisions that need to be made or how are we going to do this, it can take that up. I'll also say when you can't live in your house and you've got to go live with, your brother or sister, and so, kids who used to have their own room now have their cousin living in the room, or you have your mother-in-law in the house, it puts strain on the marriage. There would be a lot of that. A lot of people would be giving, but really close quarters, a lot of changes, a lot of grieving, giving up things. There's this other side to the storm of things that you have to navigate.
Have you lost people from your parish too? I mean, has it shrunk at all?
Oh, yes. 10% of the parish has already moved out, over 100 families.
Wow.
And the next wave is coming now that people have gotten their insurance and they can kind of know what they can let their properties go for, and they're waiting for their houses to sell.
The number is 813-755-6562. We're on with Father Curtis with St. Raphael Parish in St. Petersburg, and Ernest Hooper with United Way Suncoast, talking about resilience and community in the aftermath of last year's storm season. Ernest, I mean, does it seem like when you think about the money, are you worried about the following year? Like you've got $1.2 million in grants out, another $1 million coming. What do you need?
Well, I think, of course we need additional support, and we also need to find ways to generate that connection with our different nonprofit partners and with different community members. I think one of the things that we lose, especially in the immediate aftermath of these storms, is that sense of community, that sense of connection. People feel alone. People are in their homes that are damaged, and they're wondering, do they still have friends? Do they still have family? Does the community still care about them? One of our partners, 360 Eats, distributes chef-prepared meals at our resource center in Clearwater. And well after the storm, people kept coming to get meals.
Yeah.
Part of that was because they were living in FEMA-supported hotels.
Yeah.
And they couldn't cook in the hotel.
Yeah.
But they also came because they wanted to connect with people.
Yeah.
They wanted to feel, they wanted to feel like they weren't alone, that there were other people in this with them.
Let me just get a call in here if we can. We've got Robin on the line. You're on the air, Robin. Go ahead.
Wow, thank you so much for taking my call. I'm so short on time, and I have so much to share with you guys. But, the building, I didn't have problems with impact, but I ended up stepping in a puddle of brown water, and oh my gosh, I got cellulitis and then brought pneumonia and just terrible, terrible experience, became homeless. And it wasn't until finally I passed out in front of a Circle K because of severe dehydration. And thank goodness that someone saw me. They got me in an ambulance, probably full of 3 liters of saline, and got me on track and sheltered in a place called Pasco Hope. It's a hurricane shelter, which I think might have originally been FEMA.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's a lot of people there. Gosh, that's a place you ought to go talk to people.
Robin, thank you so much. We are out of time. We're going to have to leave it there, but I really appreciate you weighing in. We will check that out. I want to thank our guests, too. We've been speaking with Ernest Hooper with United Way Suncoast. Thank you so much for your insights, Ernest. And Father Curtis, I should say, my apologies. Father Curtis from San Rafael Parish in St. Petersburg, thank you as well.
Thank you.
Well, coming up, we'll have more to come with Florida Matters live and local in just a moment. You can call in 813-755-6562. We're going to be talking about the impending shutdown, the federal shutdown that could be happening. We'll have more to come on that in just a moment.
I'm Peter O'Dowd. When author Victoria Riddell began her novel about the 17th century artist Maria Ostervik and her servant, where would it take her?
You set characters in motion, and their intimacy brings them closer and closer into a complex, envy-producing, rivalrous, devoted love.
That's next time on Here and Now.
Coming up at 1 on WUSF.
You want critical information this hurricane season, and WUSF is here to help. It all starts with our comprehensive guide at WUSF.org. It answers common hurricane-related questions, like preparing a go kit or safety plan. As storms approach, we'll be on air and online with live local updates and information from the Florida Public Radio Emergency Network. Before, during, and after storms, WUSF is here for you, ready to serve.
Experience the music and spirit of Americana legends, the band, with The Waite Band. They describe their music as the Woodstock sound. The Waite Band plays the Billheimer Capitol Theater on Friday, January 23rd. Tickets are on sale now at rutheckerthall.com.
Make the most of your mornings. Get a quick update on what's going on before the day gets away from you. WUSF's Wake Up Call delivers local stories, world news, weather, events, and a friendly greeting every weekday. Sign up at WUSF.org.
Welcome back to Florida Matters Live and Local. I'm Matthew Petty. Tonight at midnight marks the deadline for Congress to pass a budget or trigger a federal government shutdown, and it looks like that shutdown is coming. Yesterday, President Trump met with congressional leaders from both parties, but little progress was made. Republicans alone cannot get the 60 Senate votes needed to pass a short-term budget. Democrats say a very large difference remains on the issue of health care. The GOP proposal eliminates many of the subsidies to help low- and middle-income Americans access health insurance. Democrats want $1 trillion added back into health care spending. So what does this mean for Floridians and for those of us in the greater Tampa Bay region? Do you buy insurance on the healthcare marketplace, and maybe you're wondering what's going to happen next? Or are you a federal worker worried about a shutdown? You can call 813-755-6562. That's 813-755-6562. You can also email FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. Well, joining us right now to help explain where things stand is Congressman Vern Buchanan, who represents parts of Sarasota, Manatee, and Hillsborough counties. He's Republican, and he currently serves as chairman of the Health Subcommittee, which oversees traditional Medicare, the Medicare Prescription Drug Benefit, and Medicare Advantage. Representative Buchanan, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Matt, for the opportunity.
We did reach out to Democratic Congresswoman Kathy Castor. She was not available to join us this afternoon. Well, Congressman, let me start by looking at what's on the table here. It doesn't look like a budget deal is possible. How do things look at this hour?
I think you're right. I'm hopeful that they can do something, but it doesn't seem like they are. They started too late. I voted for keeping the government open. We wanted a 6-week opportunity to do that. Historically, I've been there long enough. We've done a lot of that. It's what they call a CR over a lot of years, and it just makes a lot of sense. Unfortunately, we wait to the last minute, Democrats and Republicans over the years, with ideally as a crunch time, and many times if they don't get it, it falls into the status that we're in right now.
Why are these short-term deals necessary? I mean, and why is it that that Democrats and Republicans can't find agreement?
Well, I think this only started, we've been talking about it for a long time, but started seriously in the last week or so, and we're so far apart. I mean, when you're looking at just our general revenues, we take in $5 trillion last year, and we spent $7 trillion. And the Democrats are saying we want 7 weeks to kind of work through this with them, and we agree on some of the things they want, but we need time to do it. And it's just unfortunate that that we're at where we're at, but I'm hopeful that we can get something done here in the near future.
So when you talk about the things that you are in agreement on, what are those things?
Well, I think the big thing is for the next 7 weeks, we've passed it in the House. It's the president's very supportive of it. We just want good faith negotiations in terms of going forward on these policy issues. One of the things they want is take advantage. You want to put the tax credits back in place for health care, and that's $383 billion just itself. Now, some of us are open-minded. I'm open-minded to some of it, but we're not anywhere near a deal.
Yeah,
a good deal. So we're looking for a short-term funding package that we can take advantage of.
The House narrowly passed the stopgap measure designed to keep the government going until November 21st. A similar Band-Aid measure passed in July. I mean, is this a good way to kind of do government, just keep things patched up and chugging along for a month or so at a time?
No, unfortunately, I've been in business for 30 years before I got here, and it's really out of control. I mean, we need a balanced budget amendment. 49 out of 50 governors can't spend more than they take in, and it's completely out of hand. And they're trying to take a leverage position to see if they can't find a way to get more benefits for people they represent. But we can't afford to do it. We'll take a look at it. Some of it makes some sense, but not $380 billion worth. And then they want to eliminate all the tax cuts that we put in place. That's $1.5 trillion. Would be additional taxes to everybody, a lot of people in the area. Also, in terms of Medicare and Social Security, those are things that we're concerned about. It won't eliminate it, but anybody that's in the process, if they're doing something in terms of the administration or making a change or someone trying to add, it's going to be difficult to get much done. So we need to get back to work on a bipartisan basis and get this done. But I just want to be clear, we and the Republicans in the House, we voted for it. We're ready we voted for the extension, the 7-week extension. The president, for it. And we got Schumer, who's basically got 53 votes. He's got 47 votes. We need 7 more votes to, pass it in the Senate. So we're waiting on him. And he's done it before. I don't know why it's such a big deal now, but you can't negotiate with having all these policy issues hanging over your head. In other words, if you don't give me $383 billion for health care, we're not gonna vote with you. So that's where we're at. It's unfortunate. It's all over financial issues, and it should be about the American people.
You're listening to Florida Matters live and local. We're on with Congressman Vern Buchanan talking about the impending shutdown. Both the Democrats and the Republicans don't appear to be any closer to a deal, and that shutdown would kick in just after midnight tonight if a deal can't be reached on the budget. The big issue is health care. Now, Congressman, a lot of people's eyes kind of glaze over a little bit when you talk about, budget decisions and discussions, but in this case, you're looking at 4.7 million Floridians signed up for marketplace coverage in 2025. It's almost 20% of the population. They have a lot at stake here. So, is there a better alternative to cutting that support for them cold turkey?
Well, I think the big thing is we need to get to the table, Democrats and Republicans, because we've got a 30-member delegation in Congress, and work through these issues. But I think there's ways that we can figure out a way to cut our costs. We need to do it. It impacts small businesses, individuals, seniors. We have a lot of seniors that are concerned about the health care. But there's a lot of things we can do, but we need to make sure that also that they claim a lot of illegals take advantage of free health care, and a lot of people are getting free health care.
Yeah, let me just offer a note on that, because I think we do hear that kind of terminology thrown around a little bit. Non-U.S. citizens can get health insurance in the United States if they have lawful immigration status, such as a green card, refugee status, or temporary visas like student or worker visas. They can apply for coverage through the Affordable Care Act marketplace, may be eligible for state-funded programs like Medicaid in some states. So in Florida, no undocumented people can get health insurance plans like Medicare, Medicaid, and marketplace, but there are a few state-funded programs for undocumented folks, including California, Colorado, and Illinois. So a little complicated, and I think it may be a little reductive to just sort of say, well, they're trying to give people who are here without documentation free healthcare. Anyway, I wanted to go to the phones. We've got Bonnie calling in. Bonnie, you're on the air. I believe you got a question. What's on your mind?
Well, I just wanted to respond to the statement about doing good faith negotiations. And in truth, the Democrats are trying to negotiate and sit down with the president and the Senate and the president of the Senate, and they absolutely refused. Trump saying, "I don't have anything. We don't have anything to talk to them about. They don't have anything to offer." Whatever it was he said, and didn't sit down until yesterday or day before yesterday. So you're right, Vern. It was too little, too late. But a lot of that, I'm sorry, sits in the lap of the president.
Thank you for your call, Bonnie. I mean, what about that, Congressman? Is there a question about, how these negotiations can be carried out in good faith if both sides are so dug in?
Yeah, well, again, we passed it in the House. I voted for it. Mm-hmm. That's done. The president's on record saying he would support it. And it's really up to the Senate. We need 7 more votes to get it done. And so I don't know how it's pretty clear to me. What we don't want to do is negotiating on a quick deal on all these policy issues. Our goal is to give us 7 more weeks, 6 more weeks. We'll get to a deal. It's going to be bipartisan. But let's cut all the threats out and let's go to work for the American people. That's my attitude.
Yeah. 813-755-6562 if you want to weigh in on the impending shutdown and healthcare, the negotiations or non-negotiations at this point over healthcare. You can also send us an email, FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. Okay, we've got another call coming in. I believe, Daryl, you're on the air. What's on your mind?
Hello.
Yeah, hello. Go for it.
Hey, I'm a veteran with 27 years in the Army. Mm-hmm. And I go out to Bay Pine, and I need a CT scan for my head. 2 weeks ago, the doctor, the people told me I need to come back at the end of November to see if I can get an appointment for January, because Trump have already gutted the VA mostly, and it's really back to the old stuff that it takes months and months and months to get a CAT scan or whatever it is that you need at the VA anyway. So they said, we're going to shut it down. He did it already.
Daryl, I appreciate you calling in. I'm sorry you're having these issues, and I hope you can get that resolved. I wonder about that, Congressman Buchanan, if I could sort of put that to you. I mean, there's obviously some issues with various parts of the healthcare system already. If we do end up with a shutdown situation, is that going to have a knock-on effect for folks who are struggling already?
Yeah, I would think that, administratively it'll be a factor. We try to take care of our veterans. I have 80,000 veterans in my area. And the gentleman that just called in, I would suggest he can call my office. I don't know where he lives, but we're glad to help him or get him some help. Mm-hmm. So
what's that number, Congressman?
Probably, I'm just trying to think.
That's all right. We can probably put something online, but in any account.
If you can put it online, we'll get it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's obviously a lot of sort of detail to work over here. I just wanted to put another question to you here. Kaiser Family Foundation, it's a nationwide health policy research group. They say the stopgap funding deal Republican support will disproportionately affect people in southern and red states, small business owners, their employees, farmers, ranchers, older adults, rural Americans. I mean, small businesses and people on Medicare are groups that you advocate for regularly. So what is your message to those folks?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that, I agree with a lot of them in terms of just the cost of health care. It's out of sight. As I mentioned earlier, been in business 30 years, and we used to pay for everybody. Now a lot of employers can't afford to provide it for their employees. So we need to work on and find a way to get better health care at a better price and that's one of my biggest goals, is to bring down costs. The other thing is that we have to.
We are going to have to leave it there, Congressman. I'm so sorry, but I appreciate your time weighing in on the negotiations over this impending shutdown. Congressman Vern Buchanan, who represents parts of Sarasota, Manatee, and Hillsborough counties, thank you so much for joining us. That's all we've got today for Florida Matters Live and Local. Our executive producer is Grayson Doctor. Our engineer is Jackson Harp. Chandler Bolcom and Malika Holst handled the video. I'm Matthew Petty. Thanks so much for watching and listening.
The Darien Gap is a stretch of rainforest connecting Panama and Colombia, just footpaths, a jungle superhighway they used to call it, for a steady stream of migrants taking the treacherous route to the U.S. But now the Darien Gap has emptied out. Hear that story in the day's top global news next time on The World.
You can hear The World at 3 o'clock after Here and Now, which is next. You're listening to WUSF 89.7 Tampa, winner of the 2025 Edward R. Murrow National Award for Overall Excellence. This is your spot for local.
You can experience the magic of Dogs, Inc. when you sign up and attend their Discovery Day at their Palmetto campus, Saturday, October 11th. Tickets and more information are at dogsinc.org.
Funding for Here and Now comes from MathWorks, creator of MATLAB and Simulink software, accelerating the pace of engineering and science. Learn more at MathWorks.